Steve Harvey met a 90-year-old fan who had saved money for years to see his show. His reaction was priceless and proved that sometimes the most powerful moments happen when we realize the profound impact our work has on people across generations. And that true fandom represents decades of loyalty, sacrifice, and unwavering belief in someone's ability to bring joy to the world. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon in January 2024, and Steve Harvey was preparing for another taping of his daytime television show when his producer, Jennifer Martinez, approached him with an unusual request that would lead to one of the most memorable moments in the show's history. "Steve, we have a very special audience member today," Jennifer said with obvious excitement. "Her name is Dorothy Washington. She's 90 years old, and she drove here from Birmingham, Alabama, specifically to see you. Apparently, she's been saving money for over 3 years to afford the trip and tickets." Steve was immediately intrigued by the story of anyone who would save for years to attend his show. But the detail about Dorothy's age made the story even more remarkable. "Tell me more about Dorothy. What's her story?" According to her granddaughter who accompanied her, Dorothy has been watching your shows religiously for over 15 years. She started with your comedy specials, then followed you through every television project, radio show, and book you've published. The granddaughter says Dorothy considers you to be like family. Steve was touched by the loyalty and dedication that Dorothy's story represented, but he wanted to understand more about what had motivated a 90-year-old woman to make such a significant financial sacrifice and physical effort to attend his show. "Jennifer, is there a way I could meet Dorothy before the show starts? I'd love to thank her personally for her support and learn more about her story." "Actually, Steve, I was hoping you'd say that." Dorothy's granddaughter mentioned that meeting you would be the fulfillment of Dorothy's biggest dream. She apparently talks about you constantly and has always said she wished she could tell you personally how much your comedy and inspiration have meant to her. Steve made an immediate decision that would create one of the most heartwarming encounters of his career. "Bring Dorothy backstage right now. I want to spend some time with her before we start filming." 10 minutes later, Jennifer escorted Dorothy Washington and her 45-year-old granddaughter, Michelle, to Steve's dressing room. Steve's first impression of Dorothy was of a remarkably spry and elegant woman who clearly took great pride in her appearance. Despite her age, Dorothy moved with confidence and grace, and her eyes sparkled with a kind of intelligence and humor that suggested a lifetime of fascinating experiences. Dorothy was dressed in her finest outfit, a navy blue dress with pearls, comfortable but stylish shoes, and a small purse that she clutched nervously as she was introduced to her longtime idol. "Mrs. Washington," Steve said warmly as he stood to greet Dorothy, "it is an absolute honor to meet you. I understand you've been supporting my career for many years." Dorothy looked up at Steve with tears forming in her eyes, clearly overwhelmed by the reality of finally meeting the man whose work had brought her so much joy over the years. "Mr. Harvey," Dorothy said in a voice that was soft but clear, "I can't believe I'm actually here talking to you. I've dreamed about this moment for so long, and now I don't know what to say." "Mrs. Washington, you don't have to say anything special. I just want to thank you for being such a loyal fan and to hear about your life. Your granddaughter tells me you've been watching my shows for 15 years. "Oh, Mr. Harvey, it's been longer than that," Dorothy replied with a smile. "I started listening to you on the radio back in the 1990s. Then I followed you to television, and I've watched every single episode of every show you've done since then." Steve was amazed by the scope and duration of Dorothy's fandom, but he was most interested in understanding what his work had meant to her personally. "Mrs. Washington, what is it about comedy and entertainment that appeals to you? What role has it played in your life?" Dorothy's expression became more serious as she considered how to explain the significance of Steve's work in her personal journey. "Mr. Harvey, I lost my husband of 52 years in 2008. Harold was my best friend, my companion, and my source of laughter for most of my adult life. After he passed away, I went through a very dark period where I couldn't find joy in anything. Steve listened intently as Dorothy shared this intimate detail about her grieving process and the role that entertainment had played in her healing. My daughter Michelle was worried about me because I had stopped socializing, stopped laughing, and seemed to have lost interest in life. She suggested that I try watching comedy shows to help lift my spirits. Is that when you discovered my show? Yes. And Mr. Harvey, the first time I heard you tell a story about your family and your struggles growing up, I laughed for the first time in months. It wasn't just that you were funny, though you certainly are. It was that you talked about real life in a way that made me feel less alone. Steve was deeply moved by Dorothy's revelation about the role his comedy had played in helping her process grief and rediscover joy after such a significant loss. Mrs. Washington, that means more to me than you can imagine. To know that my work helped you through such a difficult time is the greatest compliment anyone could give me. Mr. Harvey, it was more than just helping me through difficult times. Your comedy reminded me that life is still worth living, that there are still reasons to smile, and that laughter can coexist with loss. Michelle, Dorothy's granddaughter, added context that made the story even more meaningful. Mr. Harvey, grandmother has been saving $15 per month from her Social Security check for over 3 years to afford this trip. She wanted to be here so badly that she gave up other things she enjoyed, like eating out at her favorite restaurant, to save money for tickets and travel expenses. Steve was stunned by the level of financial sacrifice that Dorothy had made to attend his show. The fact that someone on a fixed income had prioritized meeting him over other necessities and pleasures demonstrated a level of loyalty and dedication that humbled him completely. Mrs. Washington, you saved money from your Social Security to come see me? Mr. Harvey, you've given me so much joy over the years that I wanted to give something back by supporting your show. And besides, I'm 90 years old. If I don't do the things I really want to do now, when will I get the chance? Dorothy's practical wisdom and her determination to prioritize meaningful experiences over material comforts impressed Steve and reminded him of important values about living life fully, regardless of age or circumstances. Mrs. Washington, what else is on your bucket list? What other dreams do you have that you want to accomplish? Well, Mr. Harvey, meeting you was really the biggest one. I've lived a full life. I raised 5 children, was married to a wonderful man for over 50 years, and I've seen my family grow to include 12 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren. Steve was beginning to understand that Dorothy represented something special beyond just longtime fandom. She embodied the kind of life experience and perspective that comes from decades of dedication to family, perseverance through challenges, and maintaining optimism despite loss and aging. Mrs. Washington, what advice would you give to younger people about living a meaningful life? Dorothy's answer reflected the wisdom of 9 decades of experience and observation. I would tell them to find something that makes them laugh every day, to prioritize relationships over possessions, and to remember that every stage of life has its own gifts if you're willing to look for them. What gift has this stage of your life brought you? Freedom from worrying about what other people think, the ability to speak my mind honestly, and the recognition that every day I wake up is a blessing that shouldn't be wasted on negative thoughts or petty concerns. Steve realized that meeting Dorothy was giving him as much value as his meeting was giving her. Her perspective on aging, loss, and finding joy was genuinely inspiring and reminded him of important truths about gratitude and resilience. Mrs. Washington, would you be willing to share your story on the show today? I think my audience would love to meet you and hear your wisdom about living fully at every age. Dorothy's face lit up with excitement at the unexpected opportunity to be featured on the show she had traveled so far to attend. "Mr. Harvey, would that really be possible? I would be honored to be on your show." "Mrs. Washington, it would be my honor to feature you. You represent the best of what my audience is about: loyalty, perseverance, and the ability to find joy despite life's challenges." During the show's taping that afternoon, Steve introduced Dorothy to the audience and shared her story of saving money for 3 years to attend the show. The audience gave Dorothy a standing ovation that lasted over 2 minutes, and many people were openly crying as they heard about her dedication and sacrifice. "Ladies and gentlemen," Steve said as Dorothy sat beside him on stage, "this is Mrs. Dorothy Washington, who is 90 years old and has been supporting my career for over 25 years. She saved money from her Social Security check for 3 years to afford the trip here from Birmingham, Alabama." The audience's response was overwhelmingly emotional, with people standing and applauding Dorothy's dedication and the love she represented. "Mrs. Washington," Steve continued, "you've taught me something important today about what true fandom looks like. It's not just about entertainment. It's about connection, loyalty, and the way that shared laughter can create relationships that span decades." But Steve wasn't finished expressing his gratitude to Dorothy. He had prepared a surprise that would make her sacrifice even more meaningful. "Mrs. Washington, you saved money for 3 years to be here today, which shows incredible dedication and generosity. I want to do something to thank you for that loyalty." Steve presented Dorothy with a check for $10,000, representing the money she had saved, plus additional funds, to ensure that she could afford any future dreams or needs without financial stress. "Mr. Harvey, this is too much," Dorothy protested through tears of gratitude. "I didn't come here for money. I came here to meet you and express my appreciation." "Mrs. Washington, this isn't payment for anything. This is my way of saying thank you for 25 years of loyalty and for reminding me why I do this work. You've given me a gift today by sharing your story and your wisdom." The audience was crying and applauding as they witnessed this exchange between a 90-year-old superfan and the entertainer who had brought her joy for decades. But the impact of Dorothy's visit extended beyond that single show. Steve invited Dorothy to become a regular contributor to his program, featuring her monthly in a segment called Dorothy's Wisdom, where she shared life advice and perspective from her 9 decades of experience. Dorothy became an instant fan favorite, with viewers writing to express how much her practical wisdom and optimistic outlook had inspired them to reconsider their own approaches to aging, relationships, and finding joy in everyday life. 6 months after her first appearance, Dorothy published a book titled 90 Years of Learning How to Laugh, which became a bestseller among readers interested in stories about resilience, aging gracefully, and maintaining humor throughout life's challenges. Meeting Dorothy changed my perspective on my audience and my responsibility as an entertainer, Steve often explains when discussing the encounter. "She reminded me that my work isn't just about getting laughs. It's about creating connections that can help people through difficult times and inspire them to keep finding reasons to smile." Dorothy continued appearing on Steve's show until her passing at age 93, 3 years after their first meeting. Her final appearance was a celebration of her life and the impact she had on viewers, who saw her as a symbol of the possibility for joy and purpose at any age. Steve spoke at Dorothy's funeral, where he described her as the fan who became the teacher, and shared how meeting her had reminded him of the true purpose of entertainment: to create moments of joy that help people navigate life's challenges with greater hope and resilience. Today, Steve keeps a photo from Dorothy's first show appearance on his office wall, not as a reminder of his own generosity, but as a reminder of the profound impact that loyalty, sacrifice, and genuine appreciation can have on both entertainers and audiences. "Dorothy Washington taught me that true success isn't measured by ratings or revenue," Steve reflects. It's measured by the relationships we build with people who trust us to bring light into their lives, sometimes for decades, and who sacrifice their own resources to support our work because it genuinely matters to them. The story of Steve's encounter with Dorothy proves that the most meaningful moments in entertainment happen when we recognize the real people behind our audiences. People who invest their time, money, and emotional energy in our work because it serves as a source of comfort, inspiration, and joy in their daily lives. If this heartwarming story of generational loyalty, the power of sacrifice, and the beautiful relationship between entertainers and their audiences moved you, please subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to see that dedication and appreciation can create profound connections across age and circumstances. Have you ever saved money for years to do something special, or witnessed how entertainment can help people through difficult times? Let us know in the comments about the importance of loyalty and the impact that celebrities can have when they recognize and honor their fans' sacrifices. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing stories about the beautiful connections that develop when public figures remember that their success depends on real people who choose to support their work year after year.